Across India, the National Education Policy 2020 continues to push for a three-language curriculum, a policy that, for the last 58 years since its inception in 1968, has promised national unity through multilingual education. Yet in Tamil Nadu, this policy is not merely rejected, it is vehemently condemned as a failed experiment, a tool of imposition that conceals a hidden Hindutva agenda. Today, we expose the truth behind this failed policy and explain why Tamil Nadu's two-language system is the only viable, culturally respectful alternative. In 1968, a newly independent India, still reeling from 250 years of colonial exploitation, from the early days of the British East India Company to the direct rule of the British Crown, set out to forge national unity through a three-language policy. The vision was audacious. Every student would master their mother tongue, Hindi, and English. But consider the state we inherited, a nation with an education system that was virtually non-existent. Colonial rulers built barely enough school buildings, teacher training centers, and provided minimal school supplies for a tiny fraction of our vast population. With such meager resources, how could we possibly support an ambitious three-language model? This was a policy born of high ideals, but implemented in an environment where the very basics were in chronic short supply. Implementing a three-language curriculum isn't just a matter of vision. It demands enormous investments. We're talking about building and maintaining adequate school buildings, establishing teacher training institutes, and providing essential school supplies, along with developing comprehensive curricula in three languages. Yet, in resource-starved northern states, particularly in the Hindi belt, these critical components have not materialized. Studies, including one from the Hindu, reveal that up to 90% of schools in states like Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Bihar rely solely on Hindi. This failure isn't limited to infrastructure alone. Deep-rooted socioeconomic and political factors further complicate matters. The gap between the rich and the poor, entrenched caste hierarchies, religious divides, tribal marginalization, and the stark urban-rural disparity all contribute to an education system that is unable to implement such a resource-intensive policy effectively. While many Hindi belt states have struggled to even implement a basic two-language system, Tamil Nadu has not only maintained its own two-language formula, it has excelled with it. This model has delivered real results: stronger literacy rates, better-equipped schools, and a student population with access to both regional pride and global opportunities. And now Tamil Nadu poses a bold and undeniable challenge. Show us a single Indian state that has implemented the three-language formula as successfully as we've implemented the two-language policy. There isn't one, not even close. That's because our model wasn't born from ideology. It was built on practicality, equity, and identity. We didn't just adapt. We invested in school buildings, teacher training, and classroom materials to support our children, not to impose a political agenda. Over 58 years have passed since the three-language policy was introduced, a policy that promised national unity but has only deepened educational disparities. In the resource-deprived northern states, where inadequate school buildings, insufficient teacher training, and a lack of essential supplies prevail, this policy remains a costly, unfulfilled promise. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu's two-language model stands as a beacon of success, a system that not only meets practical needs, but also protects its rich cultural and linguistic identity. The evidence is overwhelming. The three-language policy is not a tool for unity, but an impractical, imposed agenda with hidden ideological motives. It is time for the Modi government and central policymakers to stop forcing this failed policy on states that have already proven a better alternative exists. Instead, they must empower states to adopt educational models that work for their people. So ask yourself, is it fair to impose an impractical, resource-intensive policy on regions that have already shown a more effective approach? Isn't it time we respect the diversity that truly makes India great? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Join us in demanding educational policies that honor our diverse heritage and truly serve our nation. Subscribe and stay informed.